The McDonald's Corporation just very recently announced that they would be at least temporarily retiring Ronald McDonald, who is perhaps the most ubiquitous clown since Bozo the Clown. And if you're old, if you're not as old as me, you may not have any idea who Bozo is, but that's okay. But McDonald's is retiring the most ubiquitous clown in the world, Ronald McDonald. And the reason they're doing it is in response to this recent crazy clown craze. It's the nuttiest thing that I've ever heard, that there is a crazy clown craze, but there is one. And McDonald's is retiring their clown in the face of it. I'm Jeffrey Darty. This is New Cosmic Knowledge, and we're going to talk about why people are afraid of clowns. I've always wondered why. And now I'm going to give you some scientific, some psychological, and I think some spiritual reasons why people are afraid of clowns. Thank you, Solera Knight, the big P99, Little Giant, Solera Knight again, T. Peters, Chris Buford, Scotty Hall, Billy McAnally, Tanya Robbins, Rhonda, Nigel in the house, Brian in the house, Scott in the house, Mark Center Saint, great to see you again, Carol, Nadira, Rahman, Renee, Monterosa, Guy Deb, 2005, 1L Cat, Dave Mack, Jama, Shane, JR Herrera, I believe, everybody rolling in, Alan Stiles, nice to see you all here, Fishman, and we just did a show, Wayne and I talking about fishing of men or being fishermen, Lisa Cleveland, Melanie Webster, and I will see you later for some more broadcast excellence along those lines. But it's very interesting. She's not in the house. That's okay. Miles Tegg not in the house, but that's okay. There is a psychological, scientific, and I think even spiritual reasons why people are afraid of clowns. I'm looking at the Telegraph, asking the question, why are we so afraid of clowns? The more you stare at their perpetually smiling faces, the more it warps into something more sinister. And it's interesting because clowns are supposed to be fun. Clowns are supposed to be silly. Clowns are supposed to make you laugh. But one of the reasons why they're so scary to a significant number of people is that they're just a hair away from familiarity or from terror, even though they are very familiar. And of course, you've got the It movie from, Stephen King, and I didn't see the old one. I haven't seen the new one, but people don't remember that the origin of the clowns goes all the way back to medieval times and the court jesters. Comedic clowns with their highly patterned uniforms were a common form of popular entertainment in medieval times. And it's interesting because back in medieval times, the fool, the clown of the day, was always reminding people of their mortality, was always reminding people of their baser animal nature, always reminding people of how unreasonable, how ridiculous, how petty we can be. And that's one of the reasons why we are still unsettled by clowns. And as we move into the 16th century, where the Shakespearean jesters, aka and a la King Lear's fool, wandered around reminding everybody that they're not quite as smart, and we're not quite as smart as we think we are, and we're not quite as in control of happenings as we think we are. So the clown, be it the fool, be it the jester, or be it the modern day clown, is always there to remind us that, number one, we're not as cool as we think we are. Number two, we're not as smart as we think we are. And number three, we're not nearly as in control of our environments, our situations, or even ourselves as we think we are. So the clown, the jester, the fool touch us on a very, very deep level. And they've always kind of been, this article reports that clowns have always been associated with danger and fear because they do push logic up to its breaking point. They push our understandings of our limits of reason. And they do this through joking, but also through ridicule. So the psychological reasons of clowns, part of them, of the fear of clowns, they remind us of our foibles. They remind us of our mortality. They remind us of our lack of control. And we really don't like to be reminded of that. And I think we also have a deep inbred fear of not being able to read people and not being able to really know people, not being able to know our spouses, our bosses, our kids. And think about the clown with the big painted smile and the big painted face and the exaggerated features and expressions. You can't really know the clown. And isn't the clown a screaming reminder that you may not really know the man you're married to? You may not really know the woman you're in love with. And you may never really know that child, even though, ladies, you carried him or her for 9 months in your body. You just may never really know them. And it reminds you, the clown reminds you of that possibility. Sigmund Freud, I'm not really a Freudian believer, but he came up with a notion of what he called the uncanny. That's where an image is distorted, but still recognizable. And then, pardon me. It's still, it's sort of recognizable, but yet it doesn't seem quite right. And that's the thing about the clowns. The clowns, yeah, they look human, but the eyes aren't quite right. The mouth isn't quite right. The hair isn't quite right. The feet aren't quite right. And especially kids, and of course, that's where all phobias are born, is they see these clowns. Yeah, I know that's a person, but something's not right. And it makes you instinctively uncomfortable because this looks human, looks like a dude, looks like a chick, but something's a little off, and that bugs me, that worries me, that scares me. Which brings us into the subject of coulrophobia, C-O-U-L-R-O, phobia. That is the medical definition for fear of clowns. In the World Health Organization, experts speculate that it's caused by not knowing who actually lies beneath the mask of makeup. Symptoms of coulrophobia upon seeing a clown are panic, difficulty breathing, irregular heartbeat, sweating, nausea, overwhelming feelings of fear, especially common in children, and adults can also suffer from it as well. So there's a lot going on with the psychology of clowns. And it's interesting to note that the first clown, the very first clown, the ancestor of modern clowns, was Britain's most beloved clown in the early 1800s, Joey Grimaldi. And this clown was a sad clown. This clown was a depressed clown. And no question, because Grimaldi's wife had died during childbirth. His son was an alcoholic who died early, and Grimaldi's clowning acrobatics left him with painful joints and respiratory problems. So dude looked depressed because he was depressed. And that is really the ancestry of clowns. So you've got the idea of they look a little different. You've got the idea of you can't see behind the mask. You've got the idea of the fake happiness. You've got the idea of the phoniness around it. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I think, and of course, I guess we really can't go through this discussion without a discussion of John Wayne Gacy, who was a serial killer and who also was a clown. And I heard Sandra say this the other day to Sandra, I believe, or Sandra said it to Sophia yesterday. She made mention of stranger danger. We're inbred to think that strangers are danger. And what's stranger than a clown? Yeah, it's a person, and we're taught to be polite to people. Yeah, it's a human. We're taught to respect other humans, but yet it's just creepy, man. It's a stranger, and it automatically puts us into the place of stranger and danger. And of course, Ronald McDonald now won't be showing up at McDonald's anymore in the early or for at least a while because of this crazy clown thing where there's people out there dressed up like clowns, ladies and gentlemen. Some have killed people. Most of them are scaring people, doing silly things, crazy things. But there's a clown in the UK that worked the pubs and clubs. He was brilliant. His stage name was No Smoking, no smoking, and he killed himself. Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. Let me go through the chat room real quickly and see if there's any great questions or comments in here before I go to what I think might be the hidden reason that we're really afraid of clowns. Let's see. Good Sunday morning chat. Thank you. It was a good chat. Greetings and salutations from Mark Center Saint. Nadira Rahman says she hates clowns. One L Cat is 30 and is petrified of clowns. Miles always liked clowns. My daughter, I believe's daughter hates clowns. Clowns come from the plague time in history, says Fishman. Pretty much. Sean, my son would melt in fear of clowns. Wow. Interesting. Pennywise is scary. I think that's Stephen King's Clowns. I do have one question. Oh, that's funny, Mark. And here's an interesting thing. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that sharks will not eat clowns? And do you know why sharks will not eat clowns? Because they taste funny, of course. You didn't think you could get through a show without a joke, right? Shane grew up watching Bozo. So did I. Yeah, big red nose. Yeah, just weirdness. Clowns are here to take the proverbial. Yeah, that's interesting to scare us. But let me throw this down. Let me see how you would pick this up. VJB 1976. Nice to see you. Don't know if I've seen you before. I wonder if, ladies and gentlemen, that one of the reasons why we're so viscerally afraid of clowns, or so many of us are so viscerally afraid of clowns, is it possible that clowns remind us of the entities that we see at night, the entities that we see in our dreams that scare us, that aren't quite human, aren't quite demonic? Do clowns remind us of demons? Do clowns remind us of interdimensional beings that come into our dreams at night? Do clowns remind us of extraterrestrials that come into our rooms at night, or at least seem to? Someone, it's written in Hebrew, says that the clown is an archetype of the trickster. Thank you, Fishman. And that's very well stated, that a clown could be an archetype of the trickster. Fear not appears 365 times in the Bible, according to Nigel. Clowns are stoking up fear. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And I think that part of this is the fear of beings that used to torment us in days gone by, beings that still torment us in days gone by, beings that are not quite as they appear, beings that aren't quite as they say. Dami Sham says clowns are scary demons. I have a hard time arguing with that. I think the mental connection is there between demons, between ETs, between interdimensionals, between the things that scare us. Oh, well played, Tracy Dyer. The red suit devil is really a clown when you think about it. And he is. Even Native Americans have a clown figure called the Heyoka. And Alan Stiles says that clowns are a subconscious reminder of the entities that go bump in the night. Interesting. I got to run, says Mark Center Saint. See you later, my friend. We're about done with this anyway. Very interesting. They're not trustworthy, says Primitive. And that's true. You can't trust them. They look nice, but that smile's painted on. What's he really thinking? Jahima Baker says the only time that she ever screamed out in her dreams was because a clown was going to attack her in a parking lot. The Hopi Kachina people talk about. Clowns used to be to make you laugh and happiness, like the jester. Not so much anymore. There's an absolutely ancient spiritual aspect of the clown and a dark side of clownery that involves demon possession. Very well stated. 7 serpents. I get that because clowns do act in a way like they're demon possessed because they act silly, they act nutty, they act crazy. Wow. Clowns are also free since their true face is hidden. Interesting. Why dress up behind makeup when their true face is scarier than is what I tell myself? That's interesting. Jesters used to be a necessity in much of society because they're the only ones allowed to make levity of the disparities in rulers and cultures. That's interesting. Wow. Very interesting. A lot of children also are called invisible friends clowns. Interesting. How many of these creepy clown dolls are possessed? A lot of good stuff. I know a hubby and wife clown team, and they're both Wiccan pagans. That's very interesting. Oh, do clowns remind us of our fear of walk-ins? Very, very interesting. The reminders and notifications that I set never work. What's that got to do with clowns? I'm just kidding. Very, very interesting. Lots of interesting speculation. Lots of interesting reasons, I think, why we are afraid of these crazy clowns, why we are afraid of these scary clowns, and why, at the very least, we don't trust even the happy, smiley, friendly ones. They remind us that we're not in control. They remind us that we're not as smart as we used to be. And they remind us that we are in a life, in a situation that is much more tenuous and uncertain than we like to think. And Awake, Enlighten with the pun of the day says Stephen King got it. Yes, he did. Somebody says kids are naturally scared of clowns. Very well said, critical thinker. I think that is generally true. Wow. Reminding you that you aren't so great. Delusion breaking. Isn't that the truth? Brian Parker says fear of the unknown. Absolutely. Powerful stuff. Reminders of our vulnerability, says Michelle Cannon Free. Absolutely. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Why are clowns so scary? Well, we've given you some very good reasons. We've given you some very good things to think about. Oh, and how about this from Carol Bronson? Very nicely stated. And this goes back to even our most deepest fears. And this goes back to the shows that Jay and I have been talking about, the shows that I've been doing about human sacrifice, even child sacrifice and child abuse, because the big red face, the big red mouth, does that remind us of blood? The wide lips outlined heavily, reminding you of blood. Carol Bronson, very well stated. Wow. A lot of great stuff to think about. A lot of great stuff to talk about. And that's why I like doing what I do and watching you help me do what I do. And of course, the pedophilia inference, dress up, gain the, yeah. So there you go. Clowns have always been associated with danger and fear because they push logic up to its breaking point. Awaken, enlighten. Very well said. And not to mention the red shoes. Yeah. Good stuff, ladies and gentlemen. I will be back today with some more. Look at the history of clowns. It's pretty dark, definitely. The Joker from Batman, of course. I'll be back with some more broadcast excellence across the day. Namaste to you. I salute you for being here, seeking after truth. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, to keep asking questions, to keep questioning answers. And remember, we are the last generation of real humans. Let's get free and let's get busy.